I remember the exact moment my life shattered into pieces. It wasn't when my parents started using my identity. That had been happening for years without my knowledge. It wasn't even when they first missed payments on accounts I never knew existed. No, it was the look on the rental agent's face. That mixture of pity and suspicion that told me something was terribly wrong. "I'm sorry, Ms. Collins," she said, sliding the credit report across the desk. "With a score like this and these collection accounts, I can't approve your application." I stared at the paper, my vision blurring as I tried to make sense of the numbers. Credit cards, personal loans, a car loan for a vehicle I'd never driven, all in my name, all in various states of delinquency. The total hovered around $70,000. "There must be some mistake," I whispered. But deep down, I already knew. The way my parents had always intercepted the mail. How they'd discouraged me from getting a part-time job during college, insisting I focus on my studies while they took care of everything. The new furniture, the vacations, the remodeled kitchen, all appearing despite Dad's struggling plumbing business and Mom's part-time work at the library. They'd been living beyond their means for years, using my identity as collateral. The walk back to my parents' suburban home from the bus stop felt longer than usual. 3 years of university had earned me a degree in marketing and apparently a mountain of debt I never agreed to. I had plans to move in with my boyfriend Alex after graduation. We'd been dating for 2 years and I was tired of the strict rules my parents enforced. No overnight visits, curfews at 22 years old, constant monitoring of my whereabouts. I thought I was finally escaping. Instead, I was trapped more securely than ever. Mum was making dinner when I walked in, the smell of pot roast filling the house. Dad was in his usual spot, watching the news with a beer in hand. "You're home early," Mom noted, not looking up from the carrots she was chopping. "I thought you were meeting that apartment manager today." I dropped my bag on the counter with a thud that made her jump. "Why am I $70,000 in debt?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. The knife stopped. Dad muted the television. "What are you talking about, sweetheart?" Mom asked, but her eyes darted toward Dad. I slammed the credit report on the counter. "Don't. Just don't. I saw everything today. Credit cards, loans, all opened using my social security number, all in my name." Dad stood up slowly, joining us in the kitchen. "Rachel, we were going to tell you." "When?" "When it hit 100,000. When I couldn't get a job because of background checks. When I tried to buy a car or a house someday." "We had some hard times," Mom said, her voice small. "Your father's business nearly went under. We needed to keep a roof over our heads." "So you decided to ruin my financial future instead?" "We were making the payments," Dad insisted, "until business slowed down again this year. We'll catch up, I promise." I laughed bitterly. "How?" "You need to pay it all off now. Today." They exchanged glances. "We don't have that kind of money," Dad admitted. "But we'll figure something out. Maybe a payment plan." "A payment plan? This is identity theft." My voice rose despite my attempts to stay calm. "This is fraud." "We're your parents," Mom snapped. "Everything we've done was to provide for this family." I took a deep breath. I want to discuss something else too. Now that I've graduated, I want Alex to be able to stay over sometimes. The abrupt change of subject seemed to throw them. Dad's face darkened. "Absolutely not. Not in my house. I'm 22 years old." "Then act like it," he shot back. "Be responsible. These debts, we'll handle them as a family. But our house, our rules." I looked at them both. These people who had raised me, who had taught me right from wrong, who had violated my trust in one of the most fundamental ways possible. And I realized a terrible truth. They felt entitled to my identity, to my future, to my life. "I need some air," I said, grabbing my phone. As I walked out the door, I heard Mom call after me. "Rachel, dinner's almost ready." But I was already dialing my Aunt Sylvia's number, my hands shaking as I headed down the street into the fading summer evening. Aunt Sylvia lived 40 minutes away in a small apartment complex with a view of the river. Unlike my parents' carefully maintained facade of middle-class prosperity, Sylvia had always lived authentically within her means. She answered the door in paint-splattered jeans, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Rachel? What's wrong, honey?" she asked, immediately noticing my red eyes. I collapsed onto her worn sofa, the whole story pouring out between sobs. The credit report, the confrontation, the refusal to acknowledge the severity of what they'd done. She listened without interrupting, then handed me a tissue and poured 2 glasses of wine. "You know," she said, settling beside me, "your father did something similar to your grandmother before you were born." I froze mid-sip. "What?" "Took out a second mortgage on her house without telling her. She nearly lost it when the bank came calling." Sylvia swirled her wine thoughtfully. "She forgave him because that's what family does, according to her. Never reported it. Never made him face consequences. And he did it again. To me." "People who don't face consequences rarely change, Rachel." Her eyes met mine. "I've seen too many young people let their parents destroy their futures because they can't bear the guilt of standing up to them. They spend decades paying off debts they didn't incur, missing opportunities, putting their own lives on hold." "What should I do?" I whispered. "What do you want to do?" I stared into my wine glass. "I want my life back." "Then take it back," she said simply. "You can stay here as long as you need." I spent that night on Sylvia's pull-out couch, researching identity theft. By morning, I knew what I had to do, though my stomach twisted at the thought. I called Alex, who rushed over immediately, offering support but wisely not trying to make the decision for me. "Whatever you choose," he said, holding my hand, "I'm with you." The police station was busier than I expected for a Tuesday morning. The officer who took my statement was kind but matter-of-fact, explaining that cases like mine were surprisingly common. "Family identity theft is one of the most underreported financial crimes," she explained, typing my details into the system. "Victims often feel too guilty to come forward." "I almost didn't," I admitted. She paused, looking at me over her computer. "In my experience, people who do this once will do it again. They've already justified it to themselves." I nodded, thinking of Grandma's second mortgage. The investigation moved quickly once I signed the formal complaint. Detectives obtained bank records, loan applications, and credit card statements, all bearing signatures that mimicked mine but weren't quite right. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 weeks after my visit to the police station, my parents were arrested at home. I wasn't there to see it. I was at Aunt Sylvia's, trying to rebuild my life, working with credit agencies to clear my name, applying for jobs with the stain of bad credit hanging over me. The news of their arrest spread quickly through our extended family. The phone calls started immediately. Cousins, uncles, family friends, all demanding to know how I could do such a thing to my own parents. "They were just trying to help you," my mother's sister hissed into the phone. "This is how you repay them for all their sacrifices." I hung up without responding, but her words echoed in my head as doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Should I have found another way? "You're not sending them to prison," Aunt Sylvia reminded me that evening as I cried on her shoulder. "Their choices are..." My parents were charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. They faced up to 10 years in prison, though their attorney was pushing for probation and restitution since they were first-time offenders. I received a letter from my mother, full of guilt-inducing phrases about family loyalty. My father sent nothing. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom for their sentencing, Alex's hand steady in mine. My parents wouldn't look at me. They'd taken a plea deal, 2 years in prison for my father, 18 months for my mother, and court-ordered repayment of all the fraudulent debts. As they were led away, Mom finally turned to me, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger. I held her gaze, refusing to look away or accept the blame she was trying to project. Outside the courthouse, standing in the clear autumn sunlight, I felt an unexpected lightness. The weight of someone else's bad decisions was no longer crushing me. "Are you okay?" Alex asked, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Not yet," I answered honestly, "but I will be." I moved in with Alex the following week into a small apartment we could actually afford. My credit would take years to repair, but at least now I had a future that belonged solely to me. Sometimes the heaviest chains are the ones we don't realize we're carrying until we finally set them down. And as for family, I was learning that true family doesn't steal your future to fund their present.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more interesting content coming soon.